The glass dome shattered with a sound that echoed like a cry of despair across the gleaming conference hall. The shards fell in a shimmering cascade, catching the light of the distant, blazing sun, which bathed the rogue planet in an unearthly glow. Ambassador Lydia Chen, the human diplomat, staggered back, clutching the crimson blossom of blood spreading across her chest. The silent terror of the alien dignitaries around her painted a stark contrast to the chaos erupting in the room. It had been a day of promise, a day when humans and the alien coalition known as the Seraphim gathered to forge a tenuous peace. Yet, as Lydia's knees buckled, collapsing beneath her, that promise shattered alongside the glass. Her eyes met those of her aide, Commander Alex Reyes, who lunged forward from the shadows, a blur of motion amidst the paralysis gripping the assembly. The rogue planet hummed with an energy that seemed to mock the proceedings, its unpredictable orbit a metaphor for the precariousness of the moment. "Get down," Alex's voice cut through the stunned silence, authoritative and calm, even as he pulled Lydia to safety behind the overturned table. The aliens, with their elongated forms and iridescent skin, flickered in and out of visibility, a nervous tick of their species when faced with unexpected violence. Their whispers filled the air, a susurration of disbelief and fear. This was not supposed to happen. One of the Seraphim, a tall being with eyes like liquid silver, muttered in their halting interpretation of galactic basic. Their confidence of superiority, built on centuries of dominance in the stars, now seemed fragile, as wavering as the orbits of their rogue world. "Stay alert," Alex commanded, his hand steadying the ambassador as he scanned the room. His heart pounded a relentless beat of urgency. The assassin could still be here. Heavily armed security forces stormed the hall, their presence a cold comfort against the betrayal that had unfolded. Lydia's breath was shallow, each inhalation a struggle against the pain that threatened to consume her. Yet her resolve burned fiercely. This won't break us," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. But beneath the surface of human fortitude, there lay a deeper plan, a strategic countermeasure for treachery such as this. Humanity had never relied solely on diplomacy. As the Seraphim's arrogance teetered on the brink of realization, Alex knew that retaliation was not far behind. The signal had been sent, activating a network of contingencies that lay dormant in the shadows of the rogue planet's underbelly. "They underestimated us," Lydia rasped, her voice a promise, a pledge of defiance. The air was tense with the unspoken threat of what was to come, a revelation that would soon unfold. The rogue planet continued its unpredictable dance near the sun, oblivious to the drama playing out upon its surface. And as the Seraphim's bewilderment turned to unease, the humans prepared to show the galaxy that peace, once shattered, could ignite a fire of resistance that burned with the heat of 1,000 stars. The air in the command center was heavy with tension, the kind that crackled and hummed just before a storm. General Elias Rourke stood by the expansive digital display, his eyes tracking the myriad of red blips that signified the spreading crisis. Each blip represented a cloning facility, a cold reminder of the chaos that had erupted from humanity's ambition. "The situation is deteriorating faster than we anticipated," Rourke said, his voice a rough whisper of gravel and iron. He turned to face the gathered assembly of military officers and scientists, his gaze settling on Dr. Lydia Chen, the geneticist who had reluctantly become the face of the cloning program. Lydia's hands were clasped tightly behind her back, her knuckles white with suppressed anxiety. "The cloning facilities were supposed to be under strict security protocols," she replied, her voice steady but tinged with a hint of desperation. "But it seems like someone's been systematically overriding them." "Sabotage," said Captain Marcus Vega, stepping forward. Broad-shouldered and towering, his presence was as commanding as his reputation for strategic brilliance. "We've identified rogue elements within the security teams. They're not just after the technology. They're unleashing clones into the population." The gravity of the situation sank into the room, drawing a collective breath from those present. The horror of it was beyond the mere replication of humans. It was the corruption of identity, the very essence of what it meant to be human. How many? Rourke asked, his voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. Vega hesitated, his eyes flicking to the data streaming across the screen. Thousands, and they're being used to destabilize governments around the world. We've confirmed incidents in over 30 countries already. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room. Rourke turned back to the display, the weight of command pressing heavily on his shoulders. The threat was no longer theoretical, it was a living nightmare. We need to contain this, he said, his resolve hardening. Every clone released is a potential catalyst for chaos. Lydia, is there any way to track them? Lydia shook her head. The clones are indistinguishable from the original humans. Without a specific genetic marker, something we can isolate and track, we're blind. A heavy silence followed. Rourke's mind raced, calculating the strategic and ethical implications. Then, a voice broke through the tension, calm and steady. There may be a way, said Dr. Amir Patel, a quiet presence throughout the meeting. His expertise lay in neural networks and artificial intelligence, and he now commanded the room's attention with an unexpected confidence. Explain, Rourke ordered, keeping his tone authoritative yet open. Patel moved to the display, pulling up a complex web of data. We've been developing an AI capable of predictive analysis. It can sort through vast amounts of data, identifying patterns of behavior that are statistically improbable for genuine human activity. Essentially, it could pinpoint clusters of activity consistent with the movements of these clones. Rourke nodded, seeing the potential immediately. And how long would it take to implement? Patel hesitated. We'd need to feed it real-time data from global surveillance networks. The ethics of such a move. Ethics can wait, Rourke interrupted, his voice a hard edge. Right now, we need results. If this AI can help, we deploy it. Vega, coordinate with Patel and get this operational, now. Vega nodded sharply, already moving to confer with Patel. Lydia watched them, a storm of conflicting emotions in her eyes. This isn't what we intended, she said quietly, her voice almost lost in the room's activity. Rourke turned to her, his expression softening ever so slightly. Intentions don't matter anymore, Lydia. We have to deal with the reality before us. As if to punctuate his words, the room's communication panel chimed, and an officer stepped forward, urgency in his posture. General, we have a situation. A government convoy in Berlin has been ambushed. Intelligence suggests cloned operatives were involved. Rourke felt the floor drop from under him, his heart a steady drumbeat of urgency. Get me a secure line to Berlin, he ordered, his mind already spinning into action. And bring up the satellite feeds. I want eyes on the ground. As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Lydia found herself standing at the edge of the storm, her mind reeling with the implications of what had begun. The cloning program was meant to be a step into a new era for humanity, a way to advance medical science, to eliminate genetic diseases. Instead, it had become a weapon of fear. She watched as Rourke took command, his presence a steady force against the chaos. Despite the situation, his leadership was unwavering, drawing the best from those around him. In that moment, Lydia realized that this crisis was not just a test of technical prowess or military might. It was a test of character, of the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unprecedented adversity. Meanwhile, in the shadows of an undisclosed location, the architect of the chaos watched events unfold through a digital feed. A figure shrouded in anonymity, known only as the conductor, who orchestrated the release of the clones with a calculated hand. Their motives were shrouded in mystery, but the intent was clear: to dismantle the established order and reshape the world in their own image. Reports from Berlin confirm our success, a voice said, transmitting through an encrypted channel. The clones performed as expected. The conductor leaned back, satisfaction a cold ember in their chest. The chaos had only just begun, and with each move, humanity was forced to confront its hubris. The clones were not just duplicates. They were a statement, a reflection of humanity's failure to heed its own moral compass. Continue as planned, the conductor replied, their voice smooth and devoid of emotion. The world must learn the cost of its arrogance. Back in the command center, the Berlin situation had stabilized, but the underlying threat remained. Rourke, Vega, and Patel worked tirelessly, piecing together a plan that could counter the spread of the clones. Lydia found herself drawn into their circle, her expertise invaluable in understanding the nuances of the genetic technology at play. "We need to think beyond the immediate threat," Vega said, his voice a deep rumble over the hum of activity. "If the conductor's aim is to destabilize global systems, they'll have backup plans. We need to be ready for anything." "Agreed," Rourke replied, his mind already several steps ahead. "Patel, once your AI is operational, I want continual updates." "Lydia, focus on finding a genetic marker. Even the smallest lead could tip the scales." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Lydia paused, looking at the faces around her, faces etched with determination and the weight of responsibility. In the midst of chaos, she found a sense of purpose, a drive to right what had gone so disastrously wrong. Hours turned into days as the crisis deepened, the world teetering on the edge of pandemonium. Each day brought new reports of clone-led insurgencies, each one a calculated strike against the foundations of society. In the command center, the strain was evident. Patel's AI program, dubbed Sentinel, was live, processing data at an incredible rate, but the pressure was immense. With every passing hour, the stakes climbed higher. Then, one night, as the clock ticked toward midnight, a breakthrough came. Lydia, exhausted but driven, burst into the command center, her eyes alight with discovery. "I found it," she announced, her voice cutting through the low murmur of conversation. "A genetic marker. It's subtle, ingrained in the mitochondrial DNA, but it's there." The room erupted into motion, a flurry of activity as the team converged around her. Rourke's expression was one of cautious optimism, tempered by the weight of experience. "How soon can we start deploying this detection method?" he asked, his tone urgent. "It'll take time to integrate into global systems," Lydia replied, her mind already calculating the logistics. "But it's a start. We can begin identifying the clones, isolating their activities." Vega nodded, his mind already spinning plans. "We can use this to dismantle their operations, cut off communication lines. It gives us a fighting chance." As they discussed the implications, Patel's Sentinel program chimed, signaling an alert. The room fell silent as Patel tapped into the display, his eyes widening in surprise. "It's an anomaly," he said, his voice taut with excitement. "A massive convergence of clone activity in one location. If we can intercept them." Rourke's mind raced, seeing the opportunity. "We could end this, cripple their network in one strike." The room buzzed with energy, the air electric with possibility. But Lydia felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes were higher than ever, and the risk of failure was too great to contemplate. As the team mobilized, Lydia found herself standing beside Rourke. The general's eyes were fixed on the display, his expression unreadable. "We're walking into unknown territory," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Rourke nodded, his gaze unwavering. "It's what we do best. Trust in the team, Lydia. We'll bring this to an end." As the operation unfolded, the world held its breath, teetering on the precipice of change. The clones, once a symbol of human ingenuity, had become a testament to its downfall. But beneath the chaos, a new resolve emerged, a determination to reclaim the future, to face the mistakes of the past with honor and courage. And as the first light of dawn broke over the command center, the battle for humanity's soul began in earnest, the outcome uncertain, but the spirit of those who fought unyielding in its pursuit of hope. The room was eerily silent, the air thick with tension as the delegates sat frozen in their seats, the shock of the assassination still reverberating through their minds. The peace talks, once a symbol of hope, had been irreparably shattered by the sudden and violent death of Ambassador Julian Foster. His lifeless body lay crumpled on the floor, a grim testament to the fragility of human diplomacy. Captain Alara Trent stood at the edge of the conference table, her mind racing to piece together the chaotic events. Her eyes flickered across the room, assessing the expressions of the alien delegates. The Zelnaga's eye stalks quivered with agitation, the Viridian's translucent skin shifted in chameleonic waves, and the Cytherian's antennae buzzed with a frequency that resonated unease. All of them were equally unsettled, but there was something else, an undercurrent of judgment directed squarely at the humans. The ambassador's security detail failed, whispered an aide at her side, his voice a tremor of disbelief. Alara clenched her jaw, suppressing her own surge of guilt. We'll have to address this with decisive action. We cannot afford to appear weak, she replied, though inside, she felt the weight of their predicament. The humans were now perceived as an unstable element in an already precarious alliance. As she scanned the room, her gaze met that of Orin, the Viridian delegate. His expression was inscrutable, but there was a glimmer of understanding there. They had shared conversations late into the night, discussing the complexities of interstellar politics and the potential for unity among diverse species. Now, that bridge of trust seemed perilously close to collapse. We must secure the perimeter, Alara ordered, turning to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Raul Mendoza. And contact Earth. They need to know about this immediately. Raul nodded, his face a mask of grim determination. We'll get to the bottom of this, Captain. We owe it to Ambassador Foster. As Raul moved to execute her orders, Alara felt the burden of leadership press heavily on her shoulders. She knew that the humans were at a critical juncture. With their diplomatic efforts in disarray, they appeared outmatched in a universe filled with technologically superior and more experienced civilizations. The doors burst open as a squad of armored soldiers poured into the room, their weapons at the ready. The leader, Sergeant Grace Nolan, approached Alara with a salute. Captain, the area is secure for now, but we have to assume the assassin might strike again. Alara nodded, her mind already racing through contingencies. Form a defensive perimeter. We need to keep the delegates safe. As Grace relayed the orders, the tension in the room began to shift. The delegates regained their composure, though a lingering wariness remained. Alara could feel the weight of their unspoken question. Were the humans truly ready for the responsibility of interstellar peace, or were they the harbingers of chaos? Amidst the turmoil, Alara approached Orin. We need to talk, she said quietly, gesturing for him to follow her to a corner of the room. His entourage looked on with suspicion, but Orin nodded, his curiosity piqued. Captain Trent, Orin began, his voice a soft hum, this incident, it changes everything. Your people were set up, Alara interrupted, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. Someone wants to sabotage these talks. I need to know if you stand with us or against us. Orin hesitated, his eyes narrowing slightly. The Viridian's culture valued harmony and consensus, and the death of the ambassador struck at the heart of those values. This is not what any of us wanted, he said slowly. But perception is a powerful thing. The galaxy sees humans as unpredictable, volatile, which is why we need allies now more than ever, Alara pressed. To uncover the truth and bring those responsible to justice. We can't do it alone. Orin considered her words carefully. I will speak with the council. There are those among us who believe in the potential of humanity. But it will not be easy. It never is, Alara replied with a determined nod. But we won't give up. As Orin moved back to his delegation, Alara felt a flicker of hope. It was a tenuous connection, but it was something to hold onto in the dark abyss they found themselves in. Meanwhile, Raul returned with grim news. Captain, our communications are being jammed. We can't get a message to Earth. Alara swore under her breath. They're cutting us off. Whoever orchestrated this wants us isolated. There's more, Raul added, his face lined with worry. We've detected unauthorized energy signatures near the station's core. It could be a power surge, or something more sinister. Alara's mind raced. A distraction, perhaps, to keep us occupied while our enemies move into position. We need to investigate. With a nod to Grace, Alara organized a team to head towards the core. As they moved through the labyrinthine corridors of the space station, the tension was palpable. The station, once a symbol of hope and unity, now felt like a battleground. The hum of machinery was the only sound as they approached the core. But as they rounded a corner, they were met with a sight that sent a chill down Alara's spine. A group of figures, clad in dark suits, were clustered around a control panel, their intentions unmistakably nefarious. "Stop!" Alara shouted, raising her weapon. The figures turned, and in that split second, chaos erupted. Blaster fire lit up the corridor as both sides exchanged shots, the air crackling with energy. Alara ducked behind cover, her heart pounding. She peeked out and saw that they were outnumbered, the enemy entrenched and well prepared. It was a trap, and they had walked right into it. As the battle raged on, Alara felt the weight of desperation settle over her. The odds were stacked against them, their situation growing increasingly dire. But even in the face of overwhelming adversity, she felt a fierce resolve ignite within her. "We have to hold them off," she shouted to her team, her voice cutting through the din. "For Ambassador Foster, for humanity." The words galvanized them, and despite the mounting casualties, they fought with renewed vigor. Alara's mind raced, searching for a way out, a way to turn the tide in their favor. It was then that she spotted a conduit running along the ceiling, a potential vulnerability in the enemy's defenses. "Raoul," she called, pointing to the conduit. "If we can disable that, it might give us the edge we need." Raoul nodded, understanding her plan immediately. "Cover me," he said, moving swiftly towards the conduit. As Alara and Grace laid down suppressing fire, Raoul reached the conduit and began to work, his fingers moving with precision. The seconds stretched into an eternity, every moment fraught with danger. Finally, with a triumphant shout, Raoul severed the conduit, sending a cascade of sparks raining down. The enemy's systems flickered, their defenses momentarily disrupted. "Now," Alara ordered, seizing the opportunity. The team surged forward, their counterattack swift and decisive. The enemy faltered, their coordination unraveling under the onslaught. Yet, even as they gained the upper hand, Alara knew that this was only the beginning. The true scope of the conspiracy remained hidden, and the forces arrayed against them were formidable. As the last of the enemy fell, Alara stood amidst the wreckage, her mind already turning to the next steps. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. Raoul approached, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "We need to regroup, find out who these operatives were and what they were planning." Alara nodded, her resolve unwavering. "And we need to re-establish contact with Earth. We can't do this alone." The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but Alara felt a stirring of hope. The humans might be outmatched, their situation perilous, but their spirit remained unbroken. As they moved to secure the area, Alara caught Orin's gaze from across the room. There was a new understanding there, a recognition of shared struggle and mutual respect. It was a small victory in itself, a testament to the power of human potential yet to be fully realized. With each step forward, Alara knew they were inching closer to the truth. The journey would be long and perilous, but they would face it together, with honor and determination. And somewhere in the depths of space, unseen by any, the embers of hope began to glow brighter, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Amidst the ceaseless swirl of digital data and whispered rumors, the world had begun to teeter, precariously, on the edge of a precipice it could scarcely define. At the heart of this upheaval was the human cloning crisis, a Pandora's box unwittingly unsealed by mankind's insatiable curiosity. The repercussions were seismic. Every facet of society felt the vibrations of change, from the hushed boardrooms of global corporations to the noisy street corners of bustling metropolises. The atmosphere in the command center was tense, a microcosm of the world's growing unease. Screens blared with data streams, and anxious murmurs filled the air as analysts and strategists wrestled with an ever-evolving situation. Commander Alara Voss stood at the helm, her presence a lighthouse amidst the storm. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, surveyed the room. She exuded a calm that belied the chaos around her, a calm that was both a beacon and a balm for her beleaguered team. "Updates," she ordered, her voice a steady anchor in the swirling sea of panic. Lieutenant Jensen, her second in command, stepped forward, a holographic tablet in hand. "The clone insurrections have increased by 20% in the last 24 hours, he reported. "Our intelligence indicates that they've established underground networks across major cities, New York, London, Beijing. They're coordinating, and they're doing it well." Alara absorbed the information, her mind whirring with possibilities. The clones, initially thought to be mere replicas, had evolved in unexpected ways. They had desires, ambitions, a will to survive that mirrored, and in some cases, surpassed, their human counterparts. And now, they sought autonomy, demanding recognition as sentient beings. "We underestimated them," Alara admitted, her gaze meeting Jensen's. It was a rare concession from a woman known for her unyielding resolve. "What about our countermeasures?" Jensen's face darkened. "Sabotaged," he said grimly. "Every attempt to contain or neutralize their networks has been thwarted. It's as if they're anticipating our moves before we even make them." Alara nodded, her mind racing. "We need a new strategy. Something unconventional." The room fell silent, the weight of her words pressing upon each soul present. Alara was known for her ingenuity, her ability to turn the tide in seemingly hopeless scenarios. But even she was beginning to feel the strain of the escalating crisis. Just then, a young voice broke through the tension. "What if we could disrupt their communications?" It was Cadet Maya Lin, one of the newer recruits. Her eyes sparkled with the kind of audacity that only youth could muster. Jensen frowned. "We've tried that, Cadet. They're using encrypted channels, layers upon layers of security protocols. But what if," Maya pressed, undeterred, "we could mimic their signals? Create a diversion that draws them out?" Alara's interest was piqued. "Go on." Maya stepped forward, her confidence growing. "If we can trick their networks into believing there's an opportunity or a threat significant enough, we might be able to isolate key leaders, weaken their infrastructure." A murmuring ripple passed through the room, a tide of hope amidst the sea of despair. It was a dangerous plan, fraught with unknowns, but it was a plan nonetheless. Alara nodded, her decision made. "Do it. Coordinate with our tech teams and make it happen." As the room burst into renewed activity, Alara turned to Jensen. "We're running out of time, Lieutenant. We need every advantage we can get." Jensen met her gaze, understanding the gravity of their situation. "And if this fails, then we adapt," she replied, her voice firm. "We always do." In the days that followed, Maya's plan was set into motion with feverish intensity. Technicians worked around the clock, fingers flying over keyboards, eyes glued to screens. The stakes were high, and the margin for error was razor thin. Meanwhile, the clones pressed their advantage. Reports flooded in of strategic strikes on supply lines, the sabotage of communications infrastructure, and the liberation of clone detention centers. Each victory bolstered their resolve, their desire for freedom burning brighter with each passing day. Yet amidst the chaos, there were glimpses of humanity's indomitable spirit. In a makeshift medical tent, a human doctor worked tirelessly alongside a cloned nurse, their shared purpose transcending the lines drawn by society. In the depths of a besieged city, a group of civilians banded together to protect their homes, their differences set aside in the face of a common threat. As the clone networks grew bolder, so too did the resistance against them. But the cracks in humanity's defenses were widening, and Alara knew that the darkest hour was yet to come. The operation to disrupt the clone communications was launched in the dead of night, a calculated gamble that hinged on the element of surprise. The initial stages proceeded smoothly, as the false signals were injected into the clone networks, sowing confusion and discord. But as dawn broke, the plan began to unravel. The clones, ever adaptive, had anticipated such a move. Within hours, they had identified the ruse, their retaliation swift and unyielding. Key human strongholds were targeted, their defenses breached with ruthless efficiency. The command center itself came under siege, as waves of cloned operatives descended upon it with relentless fury. Alara found herself at the heart of the storm, issuing orders amidst the chaos. Her team fought valiantly, their resolve unwavering even as the odds stacked against them. Yet the tide seemed unstoppable, the clone forces an inexorable flood threatening to sweep them away. In the midst of the battle, a communication channel crackled to life. It was a message from the clone leadership, a stark ultimatum that chilled Alara to her core. They demanded unconditional surrender, the promise of peace contingent upon humanity's submission. Alara clenched her jaw, her mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. She could see the weariness in her team's eyes, the toll that the constant fighting had taken. And she knew that the world outside the command center was teetering on the brink, the balance of power shifting with every passing minute. Yet even in this darkest moment, she refused to yield. "We fight on," she declared, her voice a rallying cry that cut through the fog of despair. "As long as we draw breath, we do not surrender." The battle raged on, the clash of wills echoing through the corridors of the besieged facility. And in that crucible of strife, humanity's true nature began to reveal itself, a tenacity born of adversity, a creativity forged in the fires of challenge. For even as the clones pressed their advantage, humans found ways to adapt. A group of engineers repurposed maintenance drones into makeshift sentinels, their ingenuity a testament to the boundless potential of the human spirit. A cadre of scientists devised new encryption algorithms, their brilliance a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Yet for all their efforts, the situation remained dire. The clones were relentless, their resolve a mirror of humanity's own. And as Alara surveyed the battlefield, she knew that the final confrontation loomed large, the outcome uncertain and fraught with peril. In the depths of the command center, where the air was thick with tension and the scent of ozone, Alara found herself alone, her thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and determination. She knew that the world was watching, that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. And in that moment of solitude, she understood what made humans truly special. It wasn't their technology or their intelligence, but their capacity for hope, their ability to dream even in the face of despair. With renewed resolve, Alara returned to her team, her presence a catalyst that ignited their spirits. Together, they would face the storm, their unity a testament to the unbreakable bonds that defined them. As the battle reached its crescendo, the world held its breath, the outcome uncertain. The clones, with their unyielding drive, seemed poised to claim victory. Yet even in this darkest hour, the light of humanity flickered, undiminished by the shadows that sought to snuff it out. For in their hearts, they carried a legacy of resilience, a history of triumph against insurmountable odds. And as the final confrontation loomed, Alara knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. In the crucible of conflict, humanity would rise, their spirit unbroken, their resolve unyielding. And as the first rays of dawn pierced the horizon, they stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their eyes fixed firmly on the future. The world stood on the precipice of utter transformation. Humanity's darkest hour had arrived with the relentless march of the cloned legions. Born from stolen strands of DNA and nurtured in secret facilities, these engineered doppelgangers turned against their progenitors, sowing chaos and despair across the globe. Yet, it was not the simple brutality of their assault that brought humanity to its knees, but the insidious nature of their infiltration. The clones were indistinguishable from the humans they replaced, parents, children, leaders, making trust a scarce commodity in a world already teetering on the edge. In the heart of this despair, a clandestine council met in the depths of the catacombs beneath Paris. It was a place of history and bones, a fitting venue for humanity's last stand. A dozen figures gathered around a makeshift table, their faces lit by the flickering glow of candlelight. Among them was Elena Drayden, a former geneticist turned resistance leader, her eyes fierce with the fire of defiance. She had lost everything to the clones, her family, her career, her hope for the future, but she had not lost her will to fight. Their victory is incomplete, Elena declared, her voice echoing off the ancient walls. They underestimate us because they believe they've taken our essence, our humanity. But they have only our flesh. They do not understand the spirit that animates it. A murmur of agreement swept through the council, but it was tinged with the heaviness of fear. Across the table, General Marcus Sarin, a grizzled veteran of too many lost battles, nodded. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and on the run. But those are just statistics. They don't account for human resilience, our ability to adapt, to endure. The clones lack creativity. They follow orders, they mimic. They do not innovate. Elena leaned forward, her hands braced on the table. That is our advantage. We fight not just for survival but for the sanctity of what it means to be human. We fight for our right to exist as more than constructs, more than echoes of what we once were. From the shadows, a younger voice spoke up, Jared, a prodigious hacker who had thrown his lot in with the resistance when the clones first emerged. I've been working on something, he said, his tone cautious but hopeful. A way to exploit their network. If we can disrupt their communications, even for a short while, we can create confusion and buy ourselves precious time. The council listened intently, the air thick with the weight of possibility. It was a slim chance, but it was a chance nonetheless. We can't afford to hesitate, Elena said decisively. Prepare your attack, Jared. Every moment we linger is a moment they close in on us. As the council dispersed into the labyrinthine passages of the catacombs, Elena lingered, staring at the flickering flames. She could almost hear the whisper of the countless souls interred around her, a reminder of the stakes they faced. The clones might have taken much, but they had not taken everything. Not yet. Above ground, the world continued its inexorable slide into chaos. The clones, emboldened by their apparent victory, had grown complacent. They assumed their dominance was unchallenged, their superiority unassailable. In the cities they controlled, they strutted with the arrogance of conquerors, wholly unaware of the subtle machinations at play beneath the surface. It was in this environment of overconfidence that they made their first critical mistake. A clone general, tasked with hunting the resistance, scoffed at the notion of human ingenuity. They're like rats, he declared to his subordinates, scurrying and hiding, but ultimately doomed. We are the future, and they cannot stop progress. His words were carried on the wind, but they reached the ears of the few remaining human sympathizers within the clone ranks. These were individuals whose allegiances had shifted, who had seen the cold calculations of the clone hierarchy and found them lacking. These defectors, risking their fabricated lives, began to feed intelligence to the resistance, small pieces, seemingly insignificant, but vital when placed within the larger puzzle. It was with this new information that Jared was able to refine his plan. He worked tirelessly, hacking into the clone network from a hidden terminal deep within the catacombs. Every keystroke was a prayer for salvation, a testament to human tenacity. He knew the risks. If discovered, the clones would descend upon them with a vengeance. But fear was a luxury they could not afford. As Jared labored, Elena led sorties into the surface world, striking at clone supply lines, liberating captive humans, and spreading seeds of hope wherever possible. Each mission was a gamble with impossibly high stakes, but each success was a beacon in the encroaching darkness. Days turned into weeks, each moment stretching painfully under the weight of what was to come. Jared's work was nearing completion, a digital dagger poised to strike at the heart of the clone network. Yet, as the moment of action approached, the tension within the resistance mounted. There was no guarantee of success, no promise that their efforts would yield the desired result. On the eve of the planned attack, Elena addressed the assembled resistance fighters. Tomorrow, we strike a blow for every human who has suffered, for every life we've lost. We stand on the edge of annihilation, but we do not stand alone. We carry the hopes of those who came before us, and those who will come after. Her words ignited a fire in the hearts of her listeners. They were weary, battered, but unbroken. Each one had lost someone to the clones. Each bore scars visible and invisible. But they bore them with pride, with the knowledge that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. As dawn broke, painting the horizon in shades of pink and gold, the resistance moved out. Elena led the charge, her heart pounding with anticipation. They infiltrated the city, moving through alleyways and derelict buildings, avoiding clone patrols with practiced ease. They reached the central node of the clone network, a monolithic structure of steel and glass, a testament to the clones' perceived invincibility. Jared, stationed at a remote location, began his assault on the clone systems. His fingers flew over the keyboard, executing lines of code that had taken weeks to perfect. As he worked, Elena and her team breached the perimeter, engaging in skirmishes with clone guards. The battle was fierce, each moment stretching into eternity as the clones fought with mechanical precision. Yet, it was this very precision that proved their downfall. Human fighters, driven by desperation and determination, exploited every inconsistency, every mistake. They fought with the passion of those who have everything to lose, and slowly, the tide began to turn. In the depths of the catacombs, Jared's efforts began to bear fruit. The clone network faltered, communications stuttering as his code spread like wildfire. Confusion rippled through the clone ranks, their synchronized movements devolving into chaos. Seizing the opportunity, Elena pressed forward, her team advancing through the clone defenses. The sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air, a symphony of defiance. The clones, so confident in their superiority, found themselves unable to adapt, unable to counter the unexpected ferocity of the human assault. In that moment, amidst the smoke and chaos, the seeds of resurgence were sown. Humanity was no longer on the defensive. They had taken the fight to their oppressors, proving once again that they were more than mere flesh and blood. They were a force of nature, an indomitable spirit that no amount of cloning could replicate. But as the battle raged on, a new threat emerged. A clone leader, realizing the precariousness of their situation, activated a contingency plan. Across the city, clone enforcers mobilized, converging on the central node with orders to annihilate the resistance at any cost. The news reached Elena as she and her team breached the inner sanctum of the node. There, they found themselves confronted by an army of reinforcements, the odds suddenly and dramatically stacked against them. Yet, even as the situation grew dire, Elena refused to concede. "Hold the line," she shouted, rallying her fighters. "We are the light in the dark, the voice of freedom. We will not be extinguished." Her words were a rallying cry, a clarion call that echoed through the ranks of the resistance. In that moment, as the clone forces closed in, something within the human fighters shifted. They fought not for survival, but for victory, for the very soul of humanity itself. As Jared's code continued to disrupt the clone systems, a glimmer of hope emerged. The clones, unable to communicate or coordinate effectively, faltered. The resistance, spurred by their leader's unwavering conviction, pushed forward, determined to seize this chance, however fleeting. The battle reached its crescendo, a maelstrom of gunfire and determination, of sacrifice and resolve. And in that crucible of conflict, a single truth emerged, clear and undeniable. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would fight on, against all odds, until their last breath, for the right to live, to dream, to be more than mere shadows. In that darkest hour, humanity found its strength, its purpose, its soul. And even as the outcome hung in the balance, it was clear, this was only the beginning. The world had changed, but humanity had changed with it, rising from the ashes with a spirit unbroken. The atmosphere in the council chamber was electric, the air vibrating with an anticipatory tension. The murmurs of the delegates gradually hushed, giving way to the gravity of the situation that had drawn them together. At the heart of the assembly stood Ambassador Elena Rios, her presence commanding attention amidst the sea of alien representatives. Her stance was resolute, a reflection of humanity's indomitable spirit. even in the face of the daunting crisis that loomed over them all. The Syndicate, the nefarious coalition of species whose clandestine operations had sown chaos across the galaxy, had struck at the very heart of human society by unleashing a wave of cloning technology. This technology had been used to create replicas of influential humans, introducing disorder and mistrust among the ranks of Earth's leadership. The Syndicate's plan had been simple: to subvert and conquer from within, exploiting the human penchant for unity and cooperation by turning it against them. But humanity was resilient, and as Elena looked around the chamber, she knew they were on the cusp of a turning point. "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates," she began, her voice steady and clear, echoing through the grand hall. "We stand today not just as representatives of our respective planets, but as defenders of our shared ideals. The Syndicate believed they could fracture our alliances, that they could instill fear and doubt. Yet, they have underestimated one crucial aspect: our resolve." She paused, letting her words settle, observing the flickers of comprehension and curiosity that danced across the alien faces before her. The silence was palpable, a testament to the weight of the moment. In their arrogance, the Syndicate overlooked the complexity of human nature. They saw our empathy and cooperation as weaknesses to be exploited, failing to recognize the strength that lies within those very traits. It is through our unity, our shared experiences, and our capacity for adaptation that we will turn the tide. Elena gestured towards a holoscreen behind her, which flickered to life with images and data. "Allow me to introduce you to the Nexus Protocol," she announced, her voice resonating with the promise of hope. "A collaboration of the brightest minds from Earth and our allied worlds, this initiative represents the pinnacle of our ingenuity." The holoscreen displayed a series of complex algorithms and schematics, interspersed with live footage of scientists and engineers working tirelessly. Among the images was Dr. Isaac Chen, a leading mind in biogenetics, who had been integral in developing a solution to counter the Syndicate's clones. Elena continued, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "The Nexus Protocol is a multi-pronged approach. We have devised a method to distinguish between clones and originals by analyzing subtle genetic markers, an effort led by Dr. Chen. Additionally, we have enhanced our communication networks to ensure secure channels impervious to infiltration." As she spoke, murmurs of approval and astonishment rippled through the chamber. The severity of the Syndicate's threat had been met with an equally formidable human response, a testament to their unyielding spirit. Furthermore, Elena pressed on, her conviction unwavering. "We are mobilizing a coalition task force to root out Syndicate operations across the galaxy. We will not stand idly by as they seek to undermine our harmony. Our allies have pledged their support, recognizing that this is not merely a human struggle, but a stand for justice and peace." It was then that a representative from the Merani, a race known for their tactical acumen, rose to address the assembly. "Ambassador Rios, you speak with conviction and demonstrate the tenacity of your people," said Commander Tarek, his voice a low, rumbling baritone. "The Merani have long respected humanity's tenacity. Your resolve is commendable. The Merani will stand with you, side by side, to bring an end to the Syndicate's machinations." His declaration was met with a chorus of agreements from other delegates, each stepping forward to offer their support. The Thalam, with their unparalleled technological prowess, pledged their expertise in enhancing the Nexus Protocol. The Canari, a warrior race, vowed to bolster the coalition task force with their fearsome combat capabilities. As promises were exchanged and alliances reaffirmed, Elena felt a surge of pride and gratitude. Humanity had not merely survived, it had inspired a coalition of diverse species to unite under a common cause. The Syndicate had underestimated the strength that came not from individual might, but from collective unity. The meeting adjourned with a renewed sense of purpose. As the delegates dispersed, Elena lingered by the holoscreen, her thoughts turning to the task that lay ahead. The battle was far from over, but the momentum had shifted. For the first time since the Syndicate's insidious plot had been unveiled, hope burned brightly in the hearts of those who had chosen to stand together. Elsewhere, deep within the Syndicate's hidden stronghold, a different scene unfolded. The chamber was dimly lit, its walls adorned with screens displaying data and tactical maps. In the center stood Krell Tharn, the Syndicate's chief strategist, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he absorbed the reports flowing in. "The humans are adapting," he mused aloud, his voice a low hiss. "Their response is unexpected." Beside him, a subordinate, one of the Syndicate's operatives responsible for the cloning operations, shifted uneasily. "We anticipated resistance, but their progress is alarming. The Nexus Protocol is a significant threat to our plans." Krell Tharn's gaze remained fixed on the screens, contemplating the implications. "It seems we have underestimated them," he acknowledged begrudgingly. "Their ingenuity and capacity for cooperation are proving formidable." The subordinate hesitated before speaking again. "Should we escalate our efforts? Perhaps introduce more aggressive measures?" Krell Tharn considered the suggestion, his mind calculating the potential risks and rewards. "No," he decided finally. "We must regroup and reassess. We will not act in haste and risk exposing our vulnerabilities. The humans have shown they are not to be underestimated, but neither are we defeated." The Syndicate's strategist turned his attention back to the data, his mind whirring with possibilities. They had been dealt a setback, but the game was far from over. Krell Tharn knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet he relished the prospect of a worthy adversary. Back on Earth, the Nexus Protocol was in full swing. Laboratories hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked around the clock, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that they were not alone in their struggle. Across the galaxy, Allied forces gathered, their resolve crystallizing into action. Dr. Isaac Chen stood in the heart of one such lab, surrounded by a team of researchers. They pored over genetic sequences, searching for the telltale markers that distinguished clones from originals. It was painstaking work, but they pressed on with determination, driven by the knowledge that their efforts could save countless lives. In the control room of the Coalition Task Force's flagship, Captain Lena Torres monitored the preparations for the upcoming operations. The ship's crew, a mix of humans and their alien allies, moved with practiced efficiency, their focus unwavering. Captain Torres, with her years of experience and keen instincts, inspired confidence in those under her command. She knew that the mission ahead would be perilous, but she also understood the stakes. The Syndicate had sown chaos, and it was up to them to restore order. As the final preparations were made, a sense of anticipation settled over the task force. The time for action was at hand. The message, transmitted across vast distances, was clear. Humanity had risen to the challenge, and their allies stood with them. The first wave of operations commenced with precision, the Coalition striking at the Syndicate's outposts with coordinated efficiency. The element of surprise was on their side, and the initial skirmishes saw the Syndicate's forces caught off guard, their defenses faltering under the onslaught. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, each one a testament to the success of the Coalition's efforts. The tide was turning, and with each victory, the Syndicate's hold weakened. It was a testament to the strength of unity, of the power that lay in standing together against a common threat. In the council chamber, Ambassador Elena Rios received updates with a mixture of relief and determination. The battle was far from over, but they had made significant strides. The Syndicate's threat was being dismantled piece by piece, and the hope of lasting peace seemed within reach. As the days turned into weeks, the momentum continued to build. Humanity's allies, inspired by their courage and ingenuity, rallied to their side with renewed vigor. The Coalition grew stronger, its resolve unbreakable. In the Syndicate's stronghold, Krell Tharn watched the reports with a mix of frustration and grudging respect. The humans had proven to be a formidable opponent, their resourcefulness and determination surpassing even his most pessimistic calculations. "We must adapt as they have," he muttered, his mind racing with strategies to counter the Coalition's advances. But even as he plotted, he knew that the Syndicate's days were numbered. Their plans had been unraveled, their influence waning in the face of humanity's tenacity. At the heart of the struggle, humanity's true capabilities had been revealed. Their strength lay not in their advanced technology or military might, but in their ability to inspire unity, to forge alliances across the stars. They had shown that they were not to be underestimated, that their compassion and resilience were their greatest assets. As the coalition pressed on, the signs of impending victory became undeniable. The syndicate's operations crumbled, their grip on power slipping away. Humanity and its allies had turned the tide, proving that even in the darkest of times, hope could prevail. In the end, the syndicate's downfall was a testament to the power of courage and cooperation. Humanity had faced the crisis with honor, emerging stronger and more united than ever before. Their legacy would be one of resilience, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had learned, once and for all, that humans were not to be underestimated. The chamber was vast, its dome ceiling stretching high above, a sea of sterile white broken only by the gleaming silver consoles and the flickering displays that lined the walls. The heart of the human cloning crisis was here, in the depths of this clandestine facility, hidden beneath layers of earth and deception. It was here that the seed of a monumental conflict had been planted, and here it would be resolved. Dr. Alara Lynn stood at the center of the room, her eyes scanning the faces of the assembly before her. Around her were representatives from every corner of humanity, scientists, leaders, and soldiers, all gathered for this momentous occasion. They were united in a cause that transcended borders and ideologies, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human race. The antagonists, a coalition of corporations and rogue states, had underestimated the resolve of humanity. They saw the power of cloning as a means to their own ends, a tool to create armies of the obedient and the subservient. They had made a grave miscalculation. They had not counted on the unity of purpose that had emerged in response, nor on the brilliance and creativity of human minds when faced with existential threats. From the entrance of the chamber, a group of soldiers marched forward, escorting a figure with a hood pulled low over their face. The thrumming tension in the room was palpable as the figure was led to a raised platform at the front. There, the hood was removed, revealing the antagonist leader, a man whose ambition and hubris had led to this moment. "Jonathan Klein," Alara said, her voice resonating with calm authority, "you stand here today because of your belief that humanity could be controlled, molded to fit your desires. But today, you will witness the very thing you sought to manipulate rise against you." Klein's eyes darted around the room, his bravado faltering as he met the steady gazes of the assembly. He had orchestrated the creation of countless clones, designed to be devoid of the very essence that made humanity extraordinary: creativity, empathy, the desire to strive for something greater. His plan was unraveling before him, and in this room, he faced the culmination of his own undoing. Alara turned to the assembly, her voice carrying the weight of history. "We are not here to condemn, but to demonstrate the true potential of our species. Today, we showcase what it means to be human. Our greatest strength lies not in control or domination, but in our ability to uplift, to innovate, to unite." With a nod from Alara, a series of holographic displays flickered to life around the room, each one depicting scenes of human achievement. From the earliest cave paintings to the launch of interstellar missions, the tapestry of human history unfolded. The visuals were accompanied by the voices of great leaders, scientists, and artists, their words echoing through the chamber. "We have harnessed fire, conquered the skies, and unlocked the secrets of the universe," Alara continued. "We have faced adversities that threatened to break us, yet each time, we emerged stronger. This is what you underestimated, Klein. This is the spirit you thought could be contained." The soldiers, engineers, and scientists standing at attention began to move in unison, executing a meticulously planned operation that had been months in the making. Their actions were fluid and precise, a choreographed dance of ingenuity and resolve. A team of engineers, led by the prodigious Ava Kimura, approached a massive terminal at the center of the room. Ava's fingers flew across the controls, her team synchronizing their movements to initiate a sequence that had been developed in secret alliances around the globe. The console hummed to life, displaying streams of data and algorithms that represented the combined intellect of humanity's finest minds. The antagonists had created clones, but they had not foreseen the countermeasure that humans would devise. The solution was not merely technological, but philosophical, a system designed to awaken the latent potential within every clone, to imbue them with the spark of individuality and choice. As the sequence reached its climax, a beam of light shot from the terminal, cascading over the assembly in a brilliant display of color and energy. It was not an attack, but a liberation. The clones, interspersed among the crowd and indistinguishable from their human counterparts, began to change. Their eyes, once dull and vacant, now shone with awareness and understanding. The transformation was profound. Clones started to look at their surroundings with newfound wonder, expressions of curiosity and insight dawning on their faces. They were no longer mere shadows. They were becoming individuals with their own dreams and aspirations. Alara watched as the realization spread through Klein's eyes. The clones were no longer his to command, they were free. His empire of control crumbled before him, and he stood powerless amidst the triumph of human ingenuity and compassion. The assembly erupted into applause, a wave of sound that resonated with the joy and relief of victory. This was the pinnacle of human achievement, not the creation of life, but the empowerment of it. The clones, now fully integrated into the human tapestry, joined in the celebration, their voices adding to the chorus of unity. Klein fell to his knees, the weight of his failure pressing down upon him. He had sought to play God, to mold humanity in his image, but he had been blind to the true divinity within the human spirit. He had seen only the potential for control, not the boundless capacity for growth and change. Alara approached him, her demeanor one of compassion rather than condemnation. "Jonathan, this is not the end for you, either. You have witnessed the power of what it means to be human. You have a choice now, as we all do, to contribute to something greater than ourselves." Klein looked up, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He nodded, the defiance replaced by a quiet acceptance. In this moment, even he could see the honor in joining a future built on the foundations of collaboration and empathy. As the celebration continued, Alara moved through the crowd, her presence a beacon of hope and leadership. The atmosphere was electric with possibilities, the air charged with the energy of new beginnings. Humanity had turned the tables, not through force or coercion, but through the very qualities that made them exceptional. The facility, once a symbol of manipulation and control, had been transformed into a sanctuary of progress and potential. It was a place where the boundaries of human achievement could be pushed ever further, driven by the collective will and imagination of a united species. Outside, the world waited with bated breath, the events within the chamber broadcast to every corner of the globe. The message was clear. Humanity had faced a crisis of its own making and emerged triumphant. They had chosen to rise above division and fear, embracing a future where every individual, human or clone, could contribute to the shared journey of exploration and discovery. In the days that followed, the impact of this victory spread far and wide. The clones, once seen as mere products, were now recognized as equals, their potential no different from any other human being. They took their place in society, bringing with them fresh perspectives and innovations that enriched the human experience. The antagonists were held accountable for their actions, but they too were given the opportunity to atone, to participate in the rebuilding of trust and community. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for forgiveness and growth even in the face of adversity. Alara, Ava, and the countless others who had contributed to this victory continued their work, driven by the knowledge that the challenges of tomorrow would require the same unity and brilliance that had seen them through this crisis. They understood that the journey of humanity was far from over, and that each step forward would be built upon the foundations of honor, integrity, and shared purpose. As the sun set on this day of triumph, its golden light washing over the world, Alara stood at the threshold of the facility, her gaze fixed on the horizon. It was a new dawn, a new era, and she felt a profound sense of hope for the future of humanity. A future that they would shape together, hand in hand, heart to heart, as they continued their quest to reach the stars. The morning after humanity's triumph over the Dominion, the skies above Earth had never seemed so vast, so boundless. The clouds were painted in hues of amber and rose as the sun stretched its arms across the horizon, casting a warm glow over a planet that had earned its peace through resilience and unity. In the heart of New Geneva, the newly rebuilt capital of the United Human Coalition, the once bustling war rooms had grown quiet, their walls now echoing with the silence of a world at peace. The scent of fresh paint and the hum of activity signaled a transition from survival to rebuilding. Leaders from every nation and colony gathered to discuss the future, leaving behind the era of segmentation and strife. General Alara Knox, the architect of victory, stood at the window of her office, overlooking the bustling streets below. Her heart was full, not with the clamor of battle, but with the quiet satisfaction of having led her people through the darkest of times. Her reflection, a silhouette against the rising sun, seemed to carry the weight of countless decisions and sacrifices. The humanity she saw in her reflection was a reminder of how far they'd come. As she turned away, a soft knock on her door announced the arrival of Dr. Cale Iyengar, the geneticist whose groundbreaking work had been pivotal in not just understanding the clones, but in saving them. He entered with a quiet grace, his eyes reflecting a profound sense of relief and hope. "General," he greeted, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Cale," she replied, a genuine smile breaking through her usual stoic demeanor. "We did it," he nodded, his gaze meeting hers with a shared understanding of the gravity of their victory. "The world owes you a debt, Alara. Your leadership was the anchor in the storm." She shook her head, humble in her triumph. "We all played our parts, Cale. Your work with the clones gave us the edge we needed to tip the scales." The clones, once mere pawns in a war they did not choose, had emerged as symbols of humanity's capacity for empathy and change. Through Cale's efforts, they were no longer seen as threats, but as individuals deserving of their own destinies. The decision to integrate them into society had been met with resistance, but the success of the initiative was undeniable. Clones were now contributing to rebuilding efforts, their skills and insights invaluable in creating a new world. In the Central Forum of New Geneva, a meeting was underway, a gathering unlike any other, where humans and clones stood side by side, discussing governance and collaboration. Among them was Lila, the first clone ambassador, whose journey from uncertainty to leadership had inspired countless others. Her presence was a testament to humanity's ability to redefine identity and belonging. "Today marks a new chapter," Lila addressed the assembly, her voice carrying the strength of someone who had found her place. "We stand here not as humans and clones, but as one people, united by our shared history and our shared future." Her words resonated deeply, echoed by the applause that followed. It was a moment of profound transformation, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or its weaponry, but in its capacity for compassion and unity. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, the remnants of the Dominion fleet were being dismantled, their technology repurposed for peaceful uses. The vast citadels that once loomed threateningly had been converted into research stations and educational hubs, their corridors filled with the eager footsteps of students from every corner of the galaxy. Humanity's victory had not only ensured their own survival but had ignited a renaissance of knowledge and exploration. Among the fleet, Captain Lysander Quinn, who had led the daring assault that turned the tide of the conflict, was overseeing the transition. His ship, the Aegis, now served a new purpose, ferrying supplies and personnel to support the reconstruction efforts. As he stood on the bridge, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here, a path marked by bravery, loss, and the unyielding spirit of his crew. Captain, his first officer, Lieutenant Mara Chen, approached, her presence a reassuring constant. "The last of the Dominion vessels has been secured. We're ready to begin the next phase." Lysander nodded, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. We've come a long way, Mara. It's good to see something new rising from the ashes. She smiled, a mixture of pride and anticipation in her eyes. It's a new era, Captain. One where we write the rules. As the day wore on, the streets of New Geneva came alive with celebration. Music and laughter filled the air, mingling with the aroma of diverse cuisines prepared in makeshift stalls that lined the squares. It was a festival of life, a tribute to resilience and hope. In one corner of the city, a small group gathered around a bonfire, sharing stories of heroism and sacrifice. Among them was Sergeant Jax Malone, whose bravery on the front lines had earned him a place in the annals of history. He sat with his comrades, the bonds forged in the crucible of war now serving as the foundation for lasting friendships. Remember when we thought it was over? Jax chuckled, his voice carrying both the weight of memory and the lightness of relief. His friend, Corporal Tessa Nguyen, nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. Yeah, but we made it through. Together. Their laughter mingled with the crackling of the fire, a reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity's spirit could not be extinguished. As the celebrations continued, Alara and Kale walked through the streets, their presence a beacon of what had been achieved. The people they passed greeted them warmly, expressions of gratitude and admiration evident in every glance. Do you think they'll remember? Kale asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Alara gazed at the faces around them, each one a testament to the courage and resilience that had carried them through. Yes, Kale, they'll remember, not just the victory, but what it took to get here. Their path led them to a memorial erected in the center of the city, a tribute to those who had given their lives in the struggle for freedom. Names were etched into the stone, a roll call of heroes who would never be forgotten. As they stood in silence, paying their respects, a child approached, a single flower in her hand. She placed it gently at the base of the monument, her innocent gesture capturing the essence of hope and renewal. Alara knelt down, her eyes meeting the child's. Thank you, she said softly, her heart swelling with emotion. The child smiled, a promise of a future unburdened by the past. You're welcome, she replied, her voice carrying the certainty of youth. As dusk began to settle, casting a gentle twilight over the city, Alara and Kale watched as the first stars appeared in the sky. Each twinkle a reminder of the vastness of the universe and humanity's place within it. We've changed the world, Kale, Alara murmured, the enormity of their achievement settling over her like a comforting cloak. Yes, we have, he agreed, a contented smile on his lips. And now, it's up to us to build on what we've created. The two of them stood together, united in purpose and hope, as the night embraced the world in its quiet promise. The war was over, but the journey of humanity had only just begun. Above them, the stars shone brightly, a cosmic audience to the unfolding story of a species that had dared to defy the odds, that had chosen unity over division, and that had proven, once and for all, that humanity, in all its flawed beauty, was here to stay. And as the night deepened, a new dawn beckoned, a dawn of exploration, understanding, and unyielding hope. Humanity had won the right to determine its future, not through conquest, but through the simple, profound act of choosing to stand together. In the end, it was not the victory itself, but the journey to get there, that would define the legacy of this moment. For in the heart of every human, clone, and ally, the fire of hope burned brighter than ever, lighting the way forward into a future filled with infinite possibilities.